way I know that, otherwise I wouldn't know that. All right, I'm going to go ahead and start the presentation. Before I do, though, I'm just going to mention, so the presentation is going to last about 45 minutes, and then I will open it up for questions and answers, and then we should have about 30 minutes at the end to network for anybody interested. We do all need to mute during the presentation. And Pam, if you can take care of that, and I will unmute myself as soon as you mute everybody. I think everyone's muted now, but okay. All right, let me get my presentation going here for you. Actually, the right button. Okay. All right, does everyone see a screen that says Mastering? Welcome to Mastering SEO. All right, great. Well, I really want to welcome everybody for coming. For some of us, it's late evening. I wanted to make sure that I could get those West Coasters at a good time of day. So thank you to those of you from the West Coast, Trisha and a few more. So we're going to talk about SEO tonight, hopefully demystify some of the confusion around SEO. And my goal is for you to leave this presentation with at least one or two things that you can do immediately to start seeing a difference in your SEO. So take good notes, and again, we'll have questions and answers at the end. So, excuse me, a lot of you came from our new meetup group. Pam is going to drop the link for that group in the chat for those of you who aren't part of it. It is, we call it Web Basics and SEO for the Small Business Owner. I am going to be using that meetup group to announce when we are doing presentations. There'll be some training information out there. I would love to get people engaging with each other in the group as well. I've kind of tried to start a couple of comments and haven't gotten anywhere, but it would be a great place to network as well. But at least join, and that way you'll know when these presentations come up. I don't plan on ever charging for them, so it's just free information that will hopefully help you with your digital marketing solutions. So I would like everybody to raise your hand if you are here because you want to improve the bottom line of your business. I hope everybody raises their hand for that. And keep your hand up if you really believe it is important to be found online and preferably on that first page. And raise your hand if you've heard of SEO, but you have no idea how it works. All right. We are going to talk about SEO, what it is, what it's not, how to do it, all that good stuff. First thing I'm going to do, though, is introduce myself. Again, I am Lori Osborne. I am the founder and chief solution architect for BizBolster Web Solutions. We specialize in helping the small business owner be less frustrated and overwhelmed, less stressed while dealing with digital marketing solutions. I love technology, and I know so many other people do not. So my goal is to build websites, improve SEO, and build opt-in solutions for you and take that technology woes off your plate so you can do what you love while I do what I love. I have been in technology for over 20 years. This is my second small business. I really understand small business and the woes around trying to do everything and technology. I mean, there's a lot to it. So hopefully we get to know each other, and maybe I can be a solution for you when you get in a jam. So what is SEO really? What is SEO? Search engine optimization is what it stands for. And it's exactly like what it describes. When someone types in something in Google or Bing or Yahoo, They type in a search query and it returns results. That's all search engine optimization is. The better part of that is making sure that your website shows up when someone types that in, whether it be a local business that you want to show up locally or a national business. So it's all around keywords, optimization, and telling Google what Google needs to know in order for you to show up higher on the list. And it's basically those strategies. And I love the way my coach, Colleen Biggs, puts it. Basically, she describes SEO like if you built a brand new office, you built this office, you had the furniture, the desk, the computers, you had everything set up. It was gorgeous, functional, perfect, but you didn't put a sign outside and you didn't tell a soul that you were even there. Is anybody going to show up for your business? Probably not. And that's how websites are. We can build the biggest, best, wonderful, most functional websites that are the most beautiful websites in the world. But if we don't tell Google and the other search engines that you're there and what is on that website, it's just a really pretty thing out there that's not going to bring you any business whatsoever. And that's our goal. We want to have a great website that also catapults your business. That's my goal. Whoops. So I'd like to talk about some statistics around SEO. According to Digital Commerce 360, e-commerce grew 44% in 2020 over previous year. Now, we all know 2020 was the beginning of COVID, and I'm sure that had a lot to do with this statistic, but we still have COVID. And look at all the businesses that have changed how they do business because of COVID. So many more companies have moved to online, some completely online. Many people have started working from home. So I don't see this going away. I really feel like if you haven't moved to online and done the best you can to be online, you're going to be behind the ball on this. You really, really want to get up to speed to catch up with all these people that are online. And here's some more statistics to go with that. According to the Global Web Index, more than 80% of people regularly use search engines to find products and services. 80%. That's more than, talking to someone next door. I was about to say, looking in the phone book. Boy, that was a blast from the past. There's people on here that probably never even seen a phone book. Or calling 411. How about that? Oh, and also where to buy and near me mobile queries have grown to over 200% in the past 2 years. That's huge. The first 5 organic results in any search account for 67.6% of the clicks. So that means those top 5 people are going to get more clicks than everybody else. And if you do a search and you see like there's in maps, you see like 3 results show up. We call those a 3-pack, the top 3. So those top 3 that rank the best are going to get the bulk of those results. And the first organic result has an average click rate of 28.5%. So over a quarter of the time, if you're at the top of the list, you're going to get the click. Now, let me say, trying to get to the top with SEO is a major feat. So I just want to kind of set the level of that. I get a lot of people calling me saying, I want to guarantee I'm going to be on the first page. I want to guarantee I'm going to be at the top. There is no way to guarantee that. And I'll get into that in a little bit more in later in the presentation, but the best thing you can do is do the best you can do and get as close to the top as possible for your keywords. And that's what's really key is searching for your keywords and being found. So I'm curious, how many of you feel like you know where you stand in search engine because you search and you type in the keywords and you see what comes up and you feel like you're at the top because you're showing up on the first page. I want to I bring this up because I want to mention that you probably all know Google follows us everywhere we go and tracks everything we do. So when you are using your browser to go out and look for your website using keywords, it's kind of a disadvantage because you've already been doing those searches in the past. You've probably been to your own website multiple times. And even when you've cleared your cache, there's a history of what you've done with Google. So it's not reliable. It's kind of my point in all of that. If you're going to search that way, you want to make sure you go to an incognito window, and even better, get a full SEO report so that you know truly what the numbers are compared to your competitors and for local versus national, all of that good stuff. It's just not reliable to punch in your own computer and see what comes up. So let's go a little bit more into what SEO is. So I mentioned a second ago that you can't buy your way to the top, and you can't call someone up and say, I want to be on the first page. Basically, it's all built on algorithms. It's all behind the scenes, whether it be Google's proprietary algorithm or Bing's or Yahoo's, whatever. They have their specific proprietary algorithms that drive where you show up. And nobody can buy their way to that, even Google. And I say that because I recently read an article by a guy that does SEO. He actually supports over 7,000 websites for Google, and he handles the SEO for that. And the point he made in his article is, I have to do the exact same things you have to do for our websites to perform the way we want them to. So even Google can't write a check or write a code or do what they want to make it go to the top. We all are in this algorithm, and it's built that way on purpose to drive the best of the website to people's attention. The other thing to keep in mind is SEO takes time. There are over 200 million websites across the world. And there are about, I should know this number, I want to say 15 servers across the world that all communicate with each other and all have to propagate new information, millions and millions of kilobytes of data that is constantly being updated. So it's not an instantaneous thing. I can do 10, 20 changes today on your website. It doesn't mean it's going to change what your website does tomorrow. When we make changes, we have to tell Google we made the changes, and I'll go into that in a second. We have to tell them we made the changes. They've got to re-index, and then all that information has to be pushed out to the rest of the internet. So I tell people on my plans, I require a minimum commitment of 6 months because it takes 3 to 6 months to really see a difference in your SEO. And in a lot of ways, you've even got to continue to maintain some of that ongoing to stay at the top once you get there or close to the top. So how does all this work? I mean, I mentioned algorithms and propagation and all that stuff. This is how I like to describe SEO. We've got this great big filing cabinet that Google has put together in behind the scenes, and those 200 million plus websites are in this filing cabinet. And when you submit a sitemap to Google, it tells Google what is on your website. Google goes out and indexes that or crawls it. There's a lot of different terms that you can be used here. It crawls your website and indexes all of that data and puts it in the files in that filing cabinet. So then when someone does a search, pop out that data. It's kind of hopefully the less complicated way to describe it. And what drives finding it in that filing cabinet are the algorithms, which change on a regular basis. But I want you to understand you don't have to stay on top of every single change in the algorithm because there are some basics that are going to always apply, which we're also going to talk about. So let's start with the tools. I mentioned a sitemap, kind of the bottom of the slide, which is the Search Console. The Search Console is where you submit a sitemap that is usually created already by your platform. So if you go in and do a search for sitemap on Wix or Squarespace or any of those, it typically has a format. It's usually your website URL.sitemap.xml. It's always an XML file. It's coded file that tells Google in a coded language what's on your website. It's probably the most commonly missed tool in people setting up for their SEO because it is technical and it's not commonly discussed. So when you're working on your tools, you definitely want to make sure you include Google Search Console. So now I'm going to go to the top of my slide, Google My Business. First thing you need to do with any business, whether it's local or national, is set up Google My Business. And I stress local because that's what drives maps. And obviously maps play a huge part in local businesses. But that doesn't mean it rules out the national businesses. We all should have a Google My Business. And even those of us who work from home, we can still have a Google My Business without that address showing. You have to enter the address and Google has to verify it because it needs to know that you are who you say you are and where you say you are. And then once that address is verified, you can remove it from visibility and it'll still know where you're at and have the general location. So I strongly encourage doing that with the Google My Business. And then also what it provides is the full information about your business. So I'm sure you've all seen the pop-ups, which I really should put on this slide. I'm going to make a note for the future. The pop-up for a map has got the business information and pictures and the hours, and if they're going to be closed for the holidays, that's Google My Business. And the pictures are great because it's like a social media account. It's a way to put out there this information, especially you yard carders that are on here. Google My Business is great for yard cards, which we're going to talk about. I keep saying that. We're going to talk about that in a minute, but we are. We're going to talk about that in a minute. Google My Business also has reviews, and it is driven in the background by keywords as well. So you tell Google My Business, these are my big keywords, and that's going to help your search queries. In addition to Google My Business and Google Search Console, you want Google Analytics. And Google Analytics is what tracks what's going on. So you connect it to your website, and when you're looking at your statistics, then your website knows what traffic came from Google, and Google can tell it if it was a mobile device or a desktop device or an iPad, any of those things. It can tell if it's organic or if it came strictly from what keywords it was searching, if it was referred by another website, like if you were led to someone was led to your website by another one. All of that is tracked in Google Analytics. Very valuable tool. And I'll mention all of these tools are free. They're all provided by Google because they want you to be able to improve your SEO and track it. Okay. So what are some of the things that are important to Google in this algorithm? Current relevant data is super important. Google does not want stagnant, outdated information all over the internet. And it's going to reward you for having current, relevant, informative data. And I mentioned the informative because even things like when you do a search and a question shows up in your search and there's an answer, well, guess where those questions and answers come from? Those come from people's websites. So all of that information is being propagated, and Google's pulling all of that in to provide information for you, the user, when you're searching. And that can come from blogs, podcasts, articles, straight data, FAQ pages, glossaries. All of that information can provide more and more information to the search engine. And the nice thing about blogs is that if you're doing it regularly, and podcasts, if you're doing it regularly, you've got that current relevant data that's keyword rich. We don't even bother if you're not going to build it up with the keywords that are relevant to what someone needs to search for to find you. And then the same with images and videos. They are current, interesting information that an individual would want to see. Therefore, Google is going to reward that. So I kind of want to talk about the images here. I mentioned this a second ago on Google My Business. Yard Card Supply is one of my clients. And that's why we have some yard carters on here. This top row are 3 images from their website. And I probably took this screenshot several months ago. So these are even old numbers. But I really want to bring them up because look at this first picture, the happy 7th birthday. Look like a Z from where I was looking at. 19,700 views of this image. That's a lot of views. The second one is a promotional image that's not, they did an actual post on Google My Business like you would for a social media. So that post drew in 20,400 views. And that's just from the time I took this image. If I did this today, it's probably twice that. And then the last one is of Ginger. She is one of the owners and a good friend of mine. Her picture had 65,600 views. So just think about that. 65,000 people are looking at a picture of someone on their Google My Business when they're going out there. They may not even click on the website, but they've seen that image. They've seen all 3 of these images. And what is going to happen from that? And they may not click on it, but they're going to remember. They're going to bear in mind, gosh, I saw that. You don't forget every picture you ever saw. 65,000 people had eyes on that image. And that's quite relevant in the big scheme of things when you're growing your business. And then below this is another client of mine, Dr. Kimberly Ann. Dr. Kimberly Ann, I love her to death. She hates social media. She will not advertise. She's a local psychologist here. And she started a podcast last April. And these numbers that you start seeing where it starts going up are the first 6 months of her running a podcast. That's all she did. She was not promoting her website in any other way, but running a podcast. And then she takes the podcast and puts it on her website and does all the show notes with all those keywords. And her website grew exponentially just from doing that and continues to grow today. The majority of her business comes from that podcast and driving people to her website because of it. So that's just the power of images and podcasts and regularly updating. And this isn't, like I said, those pictures, that's not even on the website. That's just on Google My Business. So I strongly encourage you. It's related to holistic healing. She's a holistic psychologist.
Thank you.
Yeah, very welcome. So the pictures that I mentioned are Google My Business. So I mentioned that because I recommend that people treat Google My Business just like you would Facebook or Instagram. When you're doing a post out to any other site, include Google My Business at least a few times a month, if not every single time you post, because the majority of time, that's where people are going to go. They're not as likely to go to Facebook or Instagram to try to find the business that they're looking for. Next thing I want to talk about is website speed. So let me mention here, the biggest change that happened in May of last year with Google algorithms is they made user friendliness more important than anything else in search engine optimization. So everything we're talking about is really driven by the user experience. So if you forget every single thing that I show you today, just remember when you're looking at your website, is it user friendly? Can they find what they're looking for? Is the call to action button clear? Do they have the contact information they need to reach me? Can they see everything on the page, whether it be desktop or mobile? Can they access everything they need to access? Those are all things around user friendliness and the number one and most important thing to Google at this point. And to you as a user, I mean, when you get on a website, you want it to be accessible. And speed is a big part of that. Who wants to spend 20, 30 seconds waiting for a page to load on a website? That's not how the world works anymore. We want instantaneous now, make it happen. So we cannot have low website speeds in loading. Things that impact website speed are the size of your images, If you are taking images straight from your cell phone and putting them on your website, they are far too large and far too heavy of a weight on your website. You've got to shrink those down. You can still keep the quality, just make them smaller. Videos are the same way. We all know you get on Zoom and you start trying to do other things or run a video, it's slow. So when you have videos, you want videos. Believe me, you want videos on your website, but you don't want them hosted on your website. You want them on YouTube. And there are other places you can put them as well, but I say YouTube because YouTube is also owned by Google, and that is also going to help your SEO. It's another place that is going to drive people to you. And I mentioned that because you've got your website, YouTube, social media, your calendar, Acuity. I know there's more, but if you're listed in a chamber directory, if you're listed in any directories, those are likely to drive showing up. Back to my example of the local psychologist, there is a group that when I'm helping her with her SEO, that group shows up every single time first, because as a group, they've obviously spent a lot of money to do the very best they can to show up. And so sometimes you have to align yourself with a specific group. And then also the website platform. I have heard so many times since I've started this business that WordPress is the best for SEO. So I want to mention that. I don't build websites on WordPress on purpose, so I'm going to give you that caveat. I find that for my clients, I try to support clients in a way that they can update their own websites if they want to, and that it's as easy as possible. So I don't do WordPress, and I don't find that it's the best for SEO. I don't find that any of them are the best. With WordPress specifically, you don't have one WordPress, you have hundreds of templates and types of WordPress available. So you can have varying across the board, some better than others. I have a yard card client on WordPress who has the slowest website I've ever seen, which makes me very sad. We've spent a lot of money trying to find someone to make it as good as it can possibly be, because he spent a lot of money building this website and he doesn't want to start all over. But sometimes there's just so much you can do. I would say the worst platform that we've seen is Squarespace. And that, in my opinion, is because there is a whole lot you cannot do on the back end of Squarespace. You are either in developer mode fully or not. You can't go in between. So that affects some of the things that can be done. But overall, really, it doesn't matter at the end of the day what platform you're on. All these things apply to every platform. And if you end up in a slow situation, you may want to change, but try to fix it before you go that route. Some other key factors. User friendliness that we talked about. Kind of went through all of that already, but just bear in mind anything that would be relevant to someone being able to find what they need to on the website. Optimized for mobile. Most website platforms these days automatically optimize, but not all. Wix is a great example. You can do everything that you think you have done for the desktop version, and if you don't look at the mobile version, it's probably going to look like crap. So you've got to make sure that you look at both the desktop side and the mobile side to make sure that it did convert and optimize properly, because you don't want great big words that go off the page, or pictures that go off the page, or fonts that, this is what usually happens. You have like a paragraph in one font and the paragraph below it in a totally different size font, could even be a different size, different color. So it's very important that you make sure that it's optimized properly for mobile. Over 65% of people are on mobile these days. So you know that your website is going to be viewed on mobile at least half the time. So it's got to be top notch. Security is another thing. Everybody should have their site HTTPS. I very rarely find non-WordPress sites having this problem, because most platforms include the certificate with your purchase of that website. With WordPress, it is an additional fee. And I assume I don't know, but I assume some web developers just don't bring it up. I don't know. I'm just shocked at the number of websites that I find that don't have the security certificate. And that is very important to Google. It's very important to all of us, but Google knows that, and that's why it's important to Google. And then backlinks. Backlinks are just like I mentioned with being like in a chamber registry. That's a backlink. Anything that links to your, to your website from another website is a backlink. And you want those, but you want quality backlinks. So you want to be making sure if you're a guest on a podcast, or if you do business with someone and they promote who they do business with, you want to be part of that. For example, I have a partners page, and I purposely have a partners page so that I can do everything I can possibly do to build up my clients and the people that I do business with, my collaborators. I want to make sure I'm promoting them as much as possible. So I have an entire page of my clients and partners with links to their websites. And that's a good, solid backlink. It's not a broken link, and it's not an irrelevant link. In addition, I do the same thing when I build websites. I put on there that I build the website with a link to my website. So they're linking back. And if you go through search results, like if you went in today and you looked up BizBolster, you get down to like, I actually did this yesterday, get to like the third page and you start seeing all my clients where I'm on their website. And it's just one more thing that's driving those search results. It is important though, not to have poor backlinks. So I discourage you from going out and buying like packages of backlinks, because most of the time those are sites that people don't go to, or they are irrelevant, have nothing to do with what you do, and it's just bad quality backlinks, and you don't want that. That actually counts against you. So don't do that. And then finally, ADA compliance. I bring this up not because you have to be ADA compliant. It's actually quite difficult to be fully ADA compliant, and it's only mandatory today for government entities. However, anything you can do to be ADA compliant is going to help your SEO. So if you become familiar with what ADA requires, for example, there are color differences. So color contrast, you can't have two colors too close together. Think about someone that's blind, nearly blind, or even colorblind. Let's say you have red and green, and they're red and green colorblind. That's going to be really difficult. Or if you have a light blue on a dark blue button, that's really hard to read. Those types of things, or videos that need explanations. And you've probably heard of alternative text, alt text. Alt text is what tells the programs that do ADA for people. That's what tells them what's in the images when they can't see, and also what tells Google what's in the images, because Google algorithms can't see an image either. So alt text is super important and kind of under the ADA compliance, but really it should probably be its own thing here on the key factors. Okay. So I'm going to talk to you about reviews. Oh, I'm going to take a little bit of break. Everybody just kind of like stretch. It's really late. Anybody stretch? Okay, maybe it's just me. All right. Let's talk about reviews. Reviews are also super important. And why are they important? One, because if they're current, they're going to tell people today how you do business. If they're positive, they're going to tell people that you're doing a good job with your business. And then let's look at these statistics. So according to a 2020 consumer review study, 79% of consumers trust online reviews as much as recommendations from friends and family. I find that amazing. Almost 80% of people trust reviews as much as asking someone they directly trust. That's gigantic. 87% of consumers read online reviews for local businesses, or read online reviews for local businesses in 2020. 87%. So 87% of the people are paying attention to reviews. 73% of US consumers only pay attention to reviews written in the last month. So 3/4 of the people like reviews, but they want to know that they're current reviews because they want to know that you're still doing a good job in your business. And then only 48% of consumers would consider using a business with fewer than 4 stars. Now, I don't know about you, but that's me. I get on Amazon, I automatically do that filter of 4 stars or better. When we're looking for restaurants, we're looking at 4 stars or better, or we're looking at how many cars are in the parking lot, because that means they're well liked if there's a lot of cars. But it's really important that to be aware of that if you've got low stars, that's going to work against you from an SEO perspective. And if you have old reviews, that's going to work against you. So you want to make sure you're getting reviews, you're getting frequent reviews, that those reviews are getting in the places they need to be, which we're going to go into a little bit more as well. Let's also talk about what not to do for reviews. And this comes from Moz.com, which is an expertise site in SEO. And these are really, honestly, a lot of these go back to requirements from where reviews go. So from Google and Facebook and the different places where reviews are posted. So it's really important to understand these. And the first one is never pay for reviews. That is very unethical, and it is against the rules of just about any place that reviews would be posted. So that means offering prizes, shirts, pens, anything that would imply that you are paying someone to give you a good review is a bad idea. Don't pay anyone to post reviews while posing as a customer. Don't review your own business or prompt your staff to review it, because again, that's unethical. Don't set up a review kiosk in your place of business to ask for reviews. Don't negatively review your competitors. That just looks bad. It's just unprofessional. Don't engage in forms of marketing that result in a sudden influx of reviews on a single platform. So what they mean by that is, let's say you've never asked for reviews and you have 1,000 customers in your database. You don't want to email all 1,000 customers and ask for reviews all at once. Let's say 10% responded and you got 100 reviews that hit Google all at once. Google doesn't like that. It knows what you're doing, basically. So if you've got those 1,000, take 100 at a time, maybe once a week, and spread it out. Don't do it all at once. Don't narrow your focus to a single platform. So I recommend you make sure you're covering Google, Facebook. If you use Yelp or any of those, TripAdvisor, anything like that, use those. And most importantly, make sure your reviews get on your website. So you can't go out and do a review for someone on Google or Facebook, but you can take those reviews, and even from LinkedIn, you can take those reviews and put them on your website and in your social media and anywhere else that you have access to show people what people are saying about you. And on your website, I recommend spreading it throughout your website, where every page where people are at, to show off what a great job you're doing. And this is all assuming that you're all getting 5-star reviews, because you're all awesome. I just know that. And then also, don't harm your reputation with unprofessional owner responses to negative reviews. So I'll share a little story here. I'm very blessed. I do have 5 stars on all of my reviews, but I had one customer about a year ago that got on and didn't leave any comments. She just put 1 star. And the minute I saw it, I knew what was going on. It was a bad experience. It was someone was referred to me by someone else that didn't want to deal with them. That should have been my first clue. It was an older couple trying to start an online business that had no idea what they were doing. They did not even know what an Excel spreadsheet was. They had no concept of how to keep track of all the products they wanted on the website. And I was sifting through about 100 emails a day from these folks trying to get this website built. And it went poorly. I got the website up and running. I tried to get them training that they needed, but it didn't go super well. And they closed their business a year later. So it was heartbreaking. But what do? I've got this no comment star. I can leave it or I can try to address it. So I spent about a day and I wrote out a professional explanation of what happened and wrote it to the person that left the review in hopes that it would at least explain why we got this 1 star. And lo and behold, as a result, she took it down. So it's completely gone. It's out of there. I can't have it removed. I can't take that down. So the fact that she did it was wonderful. And that's the kind of thing I would encourage you to do. They may not always take it down, but at least you can get your site out there when you do it professionally, and people are going to read that and they're going to consider that when they're looking at a poor review. And then don't ignore the guidelines of the specific review platforms. Kind of like what I said about not paying for reviews. Pay attention to where you're posting. And if you have a question, I recommend don't do it. Reviews are not that complex. And then again, don't forget about getting those reviews on your website. So what are some ways you can get reviews? I don't know how many of you have heard of this, but reputation management systems is an automated way to grab reviews. And it's a review collection process. There are many systems out there. We have a proprietary system that we have built specifically for this. Our system called Bolster Reviews also handles replies to the reviews. Most of them do not. And ours is a manual process for the reply. So we are watching for the reviews to come in, and then we are manually replying on your behalf. We are also monitoring the quality reviews, and we're watching for the negative reviews so that can be addressed. And then the ideal system also encourages the posting to more than one platform. I know there are several out there that will take a review and automatically put it like on your website or different places. So kind of bear in mind that when you're looking at, if you're looking at a reputation management system. So the way ours works is after every appointment is completed, if possible, we set up an automated system to pull from that appointment. Good example are yard carders, because most of my yard card clients are on Acuity for a scheduling system. So once that appointment is done, we can tell Acuity to plop that email into the system, and it will automatically generate an email to the person asking for a review. It's not just an email going, "Hi, so-and-so, please give me a review." It's an email that we set up like a newsletter, and it has your logo, and it's friendly, and it's welcoming, and it's more of a thank you. And while I'm here, would you mind leaving a review? Now, the other advantage of it being an email is someone is getting it when they're already sitting in front of their computer, most likely. So it's easier for them to do it versus asking them to do it like if you had a store when they're walking out of the store. Like, I know someone hands me a receipt and says, "Give me a review." I stuff it in my purse and I forget about it by the time I get home. This comes to them via email. And then there's 3 follow-up emails so that spread out so that they're asked more than once in case they miss the first one or forget about it. So when they get the email, it asks them, "Would you be willing to leave us a review?" And then it gives a link to a website page that we build that looks like this. And it would have your logo on it, not mine. And we would build icons or use icons that would be your personality specific to your business. And we basically say, "What you think is very important to us. Would you recommend us to someone else? Yes or no?" Yes leads them to a page like this where it says, "Thank you. Would you please leave a review? Would you please write the review and then copy and paste to these platforms?" And these links go directly to that platform. So to Google or Facebook or Yelp or TripAdvisor or wherever. That's where it will lead to. If they say no, then it's going to go to a form. It's not going to go directly for them to post. It's going to go to a form, and it's going to say, "We are so sorry. We really want to make you happy." It doesn't say exactly like that, but we appreciate your feedback. Please tell us what we could have done differently. And the point here is What if you can take a negative experience, help the person fix the problem, and potentially turn it around to where you have the best customer and repeat customer you've ever had with a positive review? That's the goal at the end of the day. They could still go out and leave a negative review, but most of the time when someone has something negative to say, they just want to be heard. And if they've got a form and you respond, which you would because we would bring it up to you, then you can address that and potentially turn it around. So I want to show you this slide. This is this is Big B's. This is actually the Ginger that I showed you before. This is her company, and she was doing the reputation management program. And you can see here that the light part of the slide is previous year, and the dark parts are the time that she was doing the reputation management system. So it just shows you the increase in traffic from having that. All right, and we're just about done, just so everybody knows. All right, next steps. So, told you all about SEO. What do you do now? Go out to our website, bizbolster.com/webinar, and get your free full SEO analysis. If you forget the webinar part, I also have it in the menu under Work With Us, but you want to go out to the webinar page because it's also going to give you access to some free downloads. Implement the changes that we talked about today. Be patient and remember that SEO takes time and consistency. And if you feel like I've thrown a lot of stuff at you, there's a whole lot to do and a whole lot to keep track of, and you think you might want help, then while you're on that page, you will see some specials that we've got going. So we've got the free analysis. There's a free SEO tool summary that you can download on that page. And then we've got 3 different specials for discounts. The Google Tools Starter Package are all the tools that I talked about. We set them up and customize them for you. And we take that full SEO analysis and we work it for you. So that is the biggest part of that package, because that takes us 5 or 6 hours to go through and fix all the funky things that could be going on your website that could be messing with your SEO that we can fix. So we do that. And then we also have some packages for local and national SEO work. And then the Bolster Reviews package is on there as well. And all of these offers can be found on that webinar page. So if I'm looking at the time right, holy cow, I said I was going to take 45 minutes and it's been 1 hour and 20 minutes. I must have been very talkative tonight. So I'm going to open it up though to any questions. We've got a couple of hands already up, and I think that's just from when I said raise your hands. Does anyone have a question? Just unmute and ask. And I'm actually going to stop sharing so I can see you easier and you can see me. Does anybody have any questions?
I have a question.
Yes, Diane.
Yeah, I don't have a physical address for my business. I'm a professional organizer, so I go to people's homes. So
Okay.
I wouldn't show up on the maps. How can I get around that?
So you will still want to put your own home business or whatever address you use for the legal part of your business. So whatever you tell the IRS or the state your address is, that's what you need to put in Google My Business. But again, you'll take it down as soon as you verify that postcard. As soon as you get the postcard verification, you'll take that down and hide it. It's just for Google to make sure that you are who you say you are.
Okay, thanks.
You're very welcome.
So can I put a rider on that? If we have our place listed, but I don't actually want them to come to me.
Right.
Okay. Will we still show up in searches or whatever if there's not a map?
You will show up in the general area, and once in a while you will actually hit maps. You're not as likely to hit that 3-pack, but Google still knows you're in that general area, and you still specify areas in Google My Business where you want to be found. So for instance, in my area, I have Jacksonville, I think I have St. Mary's, Georgia, you know, like all the areas around here. I might even have all the whole United States, but you specify where you want to be found, but you're not as likely to hit that 3-pack.
Okay, so I'm curious here because I changed my address when COVID hit. I closed brick and mortar, opened a PO box, listed the PO box, right? Which of course it's pulling the post office address because the population I work with, I don't list my home address. That's what the IRS has. That's what my, business is all listed under as my home address. So I got the PO box for that, but I didn't know they were going to send me another postcard. And I've been trying to get them to take the address off. And
I didn't think they even allowed a post office box.
well, they changed it. They put it to the
Interesting.
the
Okay.
actual address. No, it just said the address of the post office. I typed in
Yeah.
the PO box,
Yeah.
but they just put in so it looks like I'm located at the post office, which whatever is fine because they don't have physical address.
Right. Well, like I use,
But I'm
I
not getting the
actually,
3-pack. I'm not getting
Yeah.
the 3-pack, right?
no, you're not going to probably. And I mean, honestly, the majority of companies that get in the 3-pack are brick and mortar businesses because that's the whole point of it, is a search near me. I mean, that's really a near me kind of search for brick and mortar. I use a postal service, so it's a true address, but it's not, it's actually a Lion Shares co-working space. It's just, it's kind of the more difficult part of all of this, but a lot of people are
I
working from
changed
home,
it.
so you just deal with it.
If I changed it to my home address, it would, how long about do you think it is to turn it around to get that postcard?
The
in there?
postcard should take 5 to 7 days at the most.
And then how long till they take it down?
You take it down.
Like all
You
of
take it down, or we take it down for you. We hide it. You have to
Okay.
manually do it. You have to manually do it.
There's a to-do list. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Other questions? Are you all just mind overwhelmed because there was just so much information in an hour and 15 minutes? Where I promised you networking time. Oh, okay. So I have up here 1 minute and 2. So how long really have we been on here? Is it almost 9 o'clock?
57 minutes.
Just at an hour. Yeah.
Okay. Oh,
Okay.
just at an hour. Oh, okay,
Yes.
good. Then my other timing was wrong. Oh, good.
Yep.
Okay, then I'm right on schedule then.
Mhm,
I feel much better. Okay, do we have any other questions at all? Okay, and this is exactly what happened last time I did this. A lot of people don't
Hi,
like
Lori, I
network.
have a question.
Yes, Bill.
You were talking about Acuity.
Yes, ma'am. Sir. Sorry.
Is that a brand name of a service?
Yes, Acuity Scheduling. It was actually just bought by Squarespace, so technically it's Squarespace Scheduling now, but it's a scheduling software similar to Calendly, but a little more. You can customize it a lot more than Calendly, and it's great if you want to have online scheduling. And like I mentioned, we have a lot of yard card clients, and it's a game changer for them because trying to manually schedule all of that is just a royal pain. And it's what I use. Several of my clients use it as well. And it's one of the services, setting it up is one of the services we offer as well.
Got it. Thank you.
You're very welcome.